I am, because I value my past. The memories of yesterday can never be changed, but they give me a reason to live again. There is a reason I am here today, but there is no reason you lost your lives. You were called abusive names, deprived of rights to be humans, slayed because of who you were born. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I was young, I still needed you, but you were taken away from me too soon. If I had one wish, be seeing you again. Today we're strong men and women, even though you are not here to see. We're carrying on to make you feel proud out there, watching down at us. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I am a witness that if you and I come together as one, we can make sure genocide never happens again. History should be told and passed on to further generations. Let's all stand up and all sing out, never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. We are here as one nation. We say never again. We unite as human race. We say never again to genocide. Never again to genocide. Never again
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Ambazonians. You're welcome to this very special, important broadcast we're having this evening. And like you would have seen from our captions, we're going to be examining very closely the terrorist activities of Cameroon government officials and some of their associates. We're talking about Paul Atanga Nji, who happens to be the Colonial Minister of Territorial Administration. We're talking about the illegal activities of some CPDM loyalists like Ngala Gerald, who goes even into his own villages with paid armed to maim and betray his own people. This is the rare side of the media that nobody is talking about. It has been tagged by mainstream media as conspiracy theory. But in the world we're living in today, you know, whatever is called a conspiracy theory, there is something that is truth about it. This is not just a conspiracy theory. We have reports that have affirmed this. This same year, during 11 February, because Ngala Gerald wanted at all costs to have to sabotage the Ambazonian liberation movement, as we know is a legal movement, because Cameroon is looking for every way to have the international community tag the Ambazonian movement as a terrorist movement. They have stationed CPDM loyalists and some government officials, probably all government officials, to also recruit what they call Amber Boys. Unfortunately for some of them, we've been able to identify that Atanga Nji boys are not the genuine Amber Boys. And so we cannot stop talking about this today. We have to keep talking about it until everybody will know it. We have facts. These are not innuendos. We report on the ground every day, and we realize that some of the actors with arm on the ground do not identify as Ambazonian fighters under any authority, but are loyal to Cameroon government and to their proxies and to CPDM loyalists. They go into villages and into communities. They rape our women, maim our children, raise down families, use the media to sabotage the peaceful and great and bold movement of the Ambazonian people. And this is the way we understand that France operates all the time. It's a divide and conquer. One thing they also hope to achieve is to ensure that they would divide the Ambazonian people with their communities and with the volunteers who have opted to pick up weapons to counter the brutality and carnage from the Franco-Bulu machinery that's in Ambazonia. As you all know, the peaceful people of the southern Cameroons in 2016, 2017 pick up peace plans to request for their basic human rights, to ask questions. But because the Yaoundé junta government, the Yaoundé terrorist dictatorial government was unwilling, as you know they are not civilized, was unwilling to entertain any form of such conversation, they would resort to weapons. They started burning our villages, roasting our babies in quadrants of palm oil. We have images to that regard. Killing our young men and children, getting into the university campus and killing many. Then, the same people they killed, their family members decided, if we would stay quiet, then all of us will die. They decided they were going to defend themselves. In their effort to defend themselves, Cameroon had to use an infiltration strategy. And through this infiltration strategy, Cameroon recruited armed men, criminals, bandits, and also called them Ambazonian fighters. These guys have really destroyed a lot of things. A year or two later, in 2019, Cameroon will form the DDR. Usually the DDR is an institution adopted from other regions or countries that have had war. It is an institution that should be created after the war has ended. But strangely, the French Bulu government of Biya would decide to create a DDR at the time when the war is still ongoing. Can you imagine that? And we discovered that the DDR was a hub of recruitment where they would manipulate and intimidate Ambazonian fighters. They recruited people, we know them from our communities, promised heaven and earth to them, and all their promises were not met. That's going to be a great portion of tonight's conversation. But before we even get into that side of the conversation, we have, interestingly, Barrister Valentine Gana with us, and Commission Sec Sylvester Zama. Now we'll be beginning with Barrister Valentine Gana, who has an expose. He is one of the commissioned secretaries for foreign affairs. He is into diplomacy. He is a scholar, a researcher, a storyteller, I would say a history writer, who has focused over 3 decades of his life to document the history, the present, and the future of the people of the Southern Cameroons. This evening, he's coming to present to us something very remarkable. We'll give him the opportunity to do that, so we can have clarity on the status quo. Cameroon, the Cameroon's post-elections 2025. When he sets this foundation, we'll have an understanding of what we should expect within the next 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, and how Ambazonia can strategically position themselves to ensure that they win the war in record time. Right after the break, we're going to have Barrister Gana present to us this, or lay this foundation for tonight's conversation. Stay tuned.
Hello. Hello, all. Paddy, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, please go right ahead.
All right.
As I can hear you loud and clear, please go right ahead.
That's good. So we have a lot that has been happening. We have a lot that has been ongoing in French Cameroon that has a direct impact to Ambazonia. And there's been a lot of speculation in social media about what is happening. There's been a lot of speculation about if Ambazonia should join the Tchiroma gang to confront French Cameroon. There's been a lot of speculation about what is happening and what can be the solution to what is happening. But as a lot of people speculate on what is happening, they are forgetting some foundations as to why we are here. Now, they say the principle of expediency is doing something contrary to principle because it is advantageous. And there are a lot of us who can, at this moment in time, be steeped in expediency, and we can only do that if we don't look at why we are here. We can only do that if we don't meditate on if this was predictable, if this was foreseeable, and if this can be resolved without looking at the root causes of the situation. But before we even look at the root causes of the situation, it is worthy to analyze who the stakeholders of this conflict are. So I'm going to start by identifying who the stakeholders are. Well, we obviously have French Cameroon, which is a stakeholder in this conflict. And then we have France. And then obviously there is Ambazonia. And then there's Nigeria. And then there's the UN. And there's CEMAC, which is also a stakeholder here. Now, we also have some secondary and tertiary stakeholders such as Chad, Niger, and Central African Republic. So these are all the stakeholders who have some interest in one way or another to what is happening in French Cameroon. And a lot of people are looking at what is happening in French Cameroon without assessing or without analyzing what the root causes are. Like we've said on this show from time to time, when a patient goes to the doctor and says they have fever, they have high temperature, they have pains in their joints, they have sleepless nights, they have restlessness, they might be talking about the symptoms of malaria. But unless you diagnose that patient and are able to identify what the parasite is, there's no way you can treat that patient. If you treat only the high fever, the high temperature, that patient is never going to get well and that patient might die. If you treat only the pains or the restlessness or the sleeplessness, you give them something that they can sleep well at night, they are still going to wake up in the morning with all of those pains. So we have to start, after analyzing who the stakeholders are in this conflict, we have to start by analyzing what are the root causes of this conflict. Well, the first and obvious root cause of this conflict, and whether French Cameroonians like it or not, or whether the international community likes it or not, and they are facing the root causes of this conflict boldly in their face, is number one, the non-implementation of UN Resolution 1608. That is why we are here. When the international community, when the UN, when France, working with La République, and Britain turning a blind eye, when they allowed French Cameroon, through the aid of France, to annex Ambazonia, they set the path to what we are experiencing right now. And that was in contravention of UN Resolution 1608. It wasn't only the contravention of UN Resolution 1608. It was also in contravention of UN Resolution 1514 XV. And just to remind the audience, we might want to read what UN Resolution 1514 XV stated. It stated, and this resolution was crafted on 14th December 1960 in the UN. It said, immediate steps shall be taken in trust and self-governing territories or all other territories which have not yet attained independence to transfer all powers to those people, to the people of those territories without any conditions or reservations, in accordance with the freely expressed will of the people, without any distinction as to race, creed, or color, or in order to enable them to enjoy complete independence and freedom. That is what UN Resolution 1514 said. Was it adhered to? No. Let's go to UN Resolution 1541, again of 15th December 1960. It says, administering, and this was a subpart expressed in UN Resolution 1608. It says, invites the administering authority, the government of the Southern Cameroons, to initiate urgent discussions with a view to finalizing before October 1st, 1961, the arrangements by which the agreed and declared policies of the parties shall be implemented. That was in the 994th plenary session of the United Nations, April 21st, 1961. Was that adhered to? No. And a lot of people would speculate that this conflict involves the entire Cameroon, including Ambazonia. No, no, no. It does not include the entire Cameroon. It includes French Cameroon. Why does it only have to do with French Cameroon as the primary stakeholder of this conflict? Because for about 65 years, French Cameroon, again with the aid of France, has hated letting Ambazonia go than having to enjoy their own sovereignty, living in freedom, democracy, and constitutional rule. When you hate having to have your neighbor exercise its own freedom, consistent with these UN resolutions, than enjoying your own life, then you build a cesspool of corruption. You build a cesspool of dictatorship. You build a cesspool of learning to live in repression, so long as that repression is done more on Ambazonians than French Cameroonians. And as a wise man once said, the chickens have come home to roost. Now let's look at some of these parties who are aggrieved parties in this scenario. Let's go back to Kamto in 2019. They are now shedding crocodile tears. What did Kamto say about the Southern Cameroons? In his own words, he said, the Southern Cameroons did not have an identity prior to 1961 until oil was discovered in the Southern Cameroons. This is a learned lawyer who knows the facts, but chose to misrepresent the facts because of expediency. It's coming back to haunt them. Let's look at Tchiroma. Let's look at how Tchiroma behaved in 1992. Sometimes it's easier and it's more convenient to cover the facts so as to let things play out as we expect them to. But it's always better to let the facts speak. Remember, I met Tchiroma in 1991 in New York. That same weekend when the Berlin Wall was collapsing in Germany, Tchiroma was in New York, raising funds because he wanted to come topple the Biya regime. In the home of the Southern Cameroonians, we held a fundraising for Tchiroma. He was young, in his 40s. He spoke in a vibrant manner as if as soon as he touches down in Cameroon, the Biya regime is going to be toppled. So we contributed money. Tchiroma left and came back to Cameroon. He joined, obviously, the UNDP. And after the 1992 elections, when Frundi won, Tchiroma was sent to represent the UNDP in the vote counting forum within French Cameroon. What did Tchiroma do? What was the outcome of his participation? It is alleged that Tchiroma cut his own deal in that vote counting commission to gain a ministerial post, absent of the knowledge of Bello Buba, who had sent him to represent the vote counting, to represent the UNDP in the vote counting committee. Again, expediency is when you do things contrary to principle because they are advantageous. So as Ambazonians look at all of these examples, as we focus on where Ambazonia is heading to, we must remember that this conflict is a conflict of French Cameroon that they have brought on themselves through their inability to let Ambazonia go. Because it's been convenient for the entire hierarchy of leadership in French Cameroon to keep Ambazonia in bondage. And we have always said that you cannot make progress when you concentrate on holding somebody else down. Like it echoed in Pharaoh's Egypt, let my people go. Ambazonians' positioning should not be to create some detente with some forces in French Cameroon or to look for an outcome that gives us some status, as Tchiroma is saying, that we have to look at the form of the state to address the future of Ambazonia. When all of that is being said, we have to remember one thing. Ambazonia is a sovereign nation with its rights enshrined in UN resolutions that I started this presentation by naming. And Ambazonia is no different from Namibia. For the same construct in which Namibia became a sovereign nation is the same construct that Ambazonia retains its right to independence, retains its sovereignty, and is going to marshal its way to independence. Because the bloodbath that is staring down at French Cameroon is one that we haven't seen. And some of us should be celebrating, but we are not. Because it is still our African brothers in a neighboring country that are going to die. But as this conflict stares down, as Tchiroma summons the will of the international community, as people like Kamto complain, we have to remember that expediency is doing something contrary to principle because it is advantageous. And we of Ambazonia must stand on the UN resolutions that were crafted and source their originality going back to the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, where there were two Class B trust territories, French Cameroon and English Cameroon, that later on became the Southern Cameroons. So as we dovetail into this discussion, let's remember the foundation of why French Cameroon is experiencing all of this. Let's say one thing. One of the parties within all of these stakeholders who is most likely expecting a civil war in French Cameroon is France. Why do I say that? Because if you look at the Sahel, France has already lost the whole of the Sahel. If you look at CEMAC, CEMAC is only the standing entity for France in Africa. If you look at Cameroon, in 1960, the French were able to get a telecom clerk from Garoua to become president by betraying the entire Cameroons, by sponsoring a movement, an Ahijo in this case, that butchered the UPC, that butchered the authentic leaders of Cameroon. Let's look at 1992 again. France, behind the scene, through the French embassy in Yaoundé, was able to orchestrate having Paul Biya stay in power despite the fact that Paul Biya lost that election. Now, Tchiroma talks about a similar situation that unveiled around Gbagbo unveiling in Cameroon. What French Cameroon needs to understand is that though Gbagbo had lost the election, Gbagbo was anti-French. And the French were interested in having somebody who was pro-French take over in Abidjan. And that person was Alassane Ouattara. People have to remember that the French have no interest in having democracy in Africa. For example, we just saw in the Ivory Coast where Alassane Ouattara extended his term of office to the third term beyond what the Constitution of Ivory Coast prescribes. Why would the French want violence in Cameroon? Because they control the means of violence. And through violence, which the French are hoping happens in Cameroon, they will be able to support whoever they pick as winner, who will be able to continue the same corrupt terms that they had under Ahijo and corrupt terms that they've had over Biya. So I just wanted to lay this foundation as we dovetail into this discussion tonight to know where we are coming from, where we are, what our principled priorities are, and in the midst of all of the social media noise, we do not forget that Ambazonia is a sovereign nation, and the sovereignty of Ambazonia is backed by international law, and the sovereignty of Ambazonia is absolutely non-negotiable. So thank you.
That's an amazing one right there, by Gana. You have actually laid the foundation that I think it's important for us to have a conversation. I have two researchers. You are both researchers, like Commission Secretary Sylvester Zama. He is also a researcher and a writer. Now, all of these speculations that you've made, I would like to get your reaction, SOS Zama, please, before we find out what is happening across Africa and the world and get back into the debate.
Thank you for having me this evening, Comrade Paddy. I think Comrade Gana has really laid the groundwork, which is well researched and well informed. No matter what happens in East Cameroon, I still call it East Cameroon mostly. I grew up in that part of the country, in Yaoundé. But we have to understand that no matter what happens there, it's none of our business. We have to understand that. But on the same side, as he said, we have Africans who are going to be killed. No matter who wins, if we are not, we don't stick this thing together and get the French people together to fight this out, they'll be at the mercy of the French for another 50 or 100 years, which is purely at the detriment of the Africans or Cameroonians in this place. Regarding our own existence as Ambazonians, we have all these resolutions that are backed by law, affirmed by pillar poles, defining our territories. We cannot do anything less than total independence. That has to be acknowledged. No matter what our republic decides to, no matter they may tell their people they don't have an independence day, is the only country in the world that I know that does not have an Independence Day. The Independence Day is a very fictitious one. They never celebrate the 1st of January, 1960 as their Independence Day like Nigeria and other countries do. But at the end of the day, we have to understand that the ramification in Yaoundé is strictly within their own purview. We as Ambazonians, we should cheer them on. If they want to slaughter themselves, that's their business. They don't know how to negotiate. They will never negotiate. But I'm telling the youth of La République that no matter what Kamto does or Issa Tchiroma, that country is theirs, and they are all to lose if they continue the same path they are going with their leaders. They have to go to the streets. They have to do what they must do, because the guns will not stop any person. The revolt of people is like a tsunami. There's nobody able to stop a tsunami. They should go out there in mass day after day and make these people uncomfortable. Let them not be comfortable. Let them not sleep, because the more they sleep, the more they strategize to kill them. They will cling to power as much as they want, because that's the only thing they have. They will know that they will be purged. They know that they will be chased, because they've been looped for 43 years. They've not done a single thing. Yaoundé does not have running water. I grew up in Yaoundé in the 70s, where they had they were doing water pipes, and they put a 8-inch pipe of water for population that were estimated to be by the year 2025 or 2022 to be about 3 million. That was not sufficient. Not even that. They don't have no salination of water in that country. So this thing is not that this man has done a lot of stuff even for his own people in his own BT tribe. These people are suffering like any other person in the country. They don't have no roads. They don't have no water, no hospitals, no schools. So it's a whole place that has been taken up by these people. And I think we have to understand that these people have gone through the same suffering that we have, but on a different context. Over to you.
I think they've gone through, and you see, this is the argument that they bring on board to want to neutralize. When we started reclaiming our freedom, 2016, 2017, they brought this argument that the people, the Baka Bantus in the East are also facing the same crisis, or they are marginalized environments like we all are facing. And that's quite remarkable. But then you have just been appointed. I think this is the second time we're having you. Both of you have been reappointed or appointed similar different capacities. I want to talk to you very briefly now before we get into the newsroom, Mr. Gana. When you are a lawyer, you have studied law on a very high level. You understand international law, I think, better than any one of us on this platform. When you look at the world despising us when we bring this argument and the processes that are slow, you look at what is happening in the East. with Hamas, Palestine. Tabitha has a report in that regard. When you look at all of this, how feasible do you think the legal argument, which is what the government in exile stands for, how do you think this legal argument will bear more fruits for Ambazonia in the now? Let's say peradventure we are weakened on the ground militarily. How can we use, what instruments can we employ at this critical time to make sure that we break through significantly with our legal argument? Barrister Gana, please.
There are several things that we should be doing, okay? And part of our limitation in Ambazonia is all about funding. And it's not that Ambazonians do not have money. And I'm speaking now to Ambazonians, especially here in the United States, who have deep pockets. There's a lot that is or needs to go on that we need to be able to fund. We need to be able to fund people that can carry out that diplomatic exercise. This is the hot moment that we should be hitting the halls of the United States Congress, lobbying congressmen, lobbying senators, lobbying the UN. Because I've been to the United States Senate, I've lobbied a lot of senators. I've been to the United States Congress. I've probably hit the office of about 250 congressmen. I've presented at the State Department several times. And these efforts make a difference. This effort informs people of our cause. We might think that they are abundantly aware of our cause, but they are not. Just imagine somebody who goes to school in North Dakota, graduates, works in some corporation, and later runs as a congressman for North Dakota. Think that person is going to understand the details of what is happening in Ambazonia? No, they are not going to understand. But when we beat the path, when we hit the path and go to those offices and prepare the right documents and submit it to them, when we request Ambazonians in the various states to write and submit documents to their congressmen and remind them and have these congressmen sign resolutions in the United States Congress, in Senate. You know how we went to Chicago and we lobbied senators in Illinois to pass a resolution banning arms shipments to Cameroon. And they gave us a promise due to our presentation that they were going to, within a month's time, pass a resolution that will ban arms shipments to Cameroon, which they did. And so we have a lot of Ambazonians in the United States who have deep pockets, who can help fund these activities. They do not need to be funding the military campaign that is going on in Ambazonia through the government of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. But they could be funding diplomatic initiatives that will help us pass laws and push resolutions that will topple this regime in Yaoundé. If we had not done some of the lobbying that we did, this would not have happened. Let me give you an example of the inclination of a people or the deep pockets within a people that can sponsor a movement. Yes, I know Ambazonians, when we have a fundraising exercises, are contributing monies to help in the defense and the restoration of the sovereignty of Ambazonia. But let me go back in the United States to the 60s, when we had the civil rights movement, where people like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X were leading that movement to free African Americans. It was only later in the 2000s that we realized that somebody like Harry Belafonte, who was a well-paid Hollywood actor at that time, was one of those who was the principal sponsors of Martin Luther King. And so that was a deep pocket within the African American community that was helping to sponsor the movement despite the fact that nobody knew about it. Do we have deep pockets within the Ambazonian community? Yes. And sometimes we expect miracles from our leaders. We have to ask ourselves, somebody like Sako, who is the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, how much are we providing to him as a stipend where he can get up in the morning, just think and strategize on what we should do. People think that revolutions run on thin air. Absolutely, they do not. So Ambazonians first, especially those who are in the diaspora, have to be very conscious of sponsoring the revolution, especially the diplomatic initiatives that we're talking about. We should be out there lobbying some of these African countries to recognize the independence of Ambazonia, because there's abundant international law. There is abundant international precedent that shows that Ambazonia is an independent country. So there's a lot that we can be doing. Kudos to the Ambazonians fighters on the ground who have demonstrated for 8 years that they can go toe to toe with the government or with the army of French Cameroon, who have rejected French Cameroon's assumed legitimacy over Ambazonia because they don't have any. So we should be helping to fund especially diplomatic initiatives so that we can exploit this situation in Yaoundé and cut off. And let me tell you something. It is not going to go down in French Cameroon without bloodshed. There is this guy who was being interviewed, sorry, I'm going to call his name, who was being interviewed by Chris Ano. It's a guy from Texas, and he was talking about how things function in Yaoundé. If you listen to that interview, there's a lot that is between the lines of what might be coming down in French Cameroon. If you listen to that interview and you listen between the lines, there's a lot that the international community or the United States or some significant stakeholder might already be in the works of doing to topple that regime in Yaoundé. And we have to be positioned militarily, diplomatically, to be able to seize advantage of that and shepherd Ambazonia towards being an independent and sovereign nation. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I hope I did.
You did quite good, but I have a lot of other questions. I'm going to challenge you when we come back from the newsroom. But let me ask you this question because I want you, SOS Zama, to make a contribution briefly. Peradventure, which we are hoping for, on one side being empathetic. I've seen this. The Commission Secretary for Foreign Affairs being empathetic that he really doesn't want more lives being lost. But what is the strategic advantage if not just an uproar like we're seeing now in East Cameroon, like you call it, or La République du Cameroon, or neighboring French Cameroon, if it escalates, if Plan Z of Issa Tchiroma, which a lot of people, Yaoundé is confused now. They don't really know exactly what he's planning. They are unable to identify his next move. What if something in that sort happens? Of what strategic advantage it is for our initiatives on the ground? Because it is public knowledge, and a proud one, that Ambazonia has picked up guns against the intruding forces of French Cameroon. What is the strategic advantage for us that are defending our homeland? Or do you think this time international powers will give reinforcement to Yaoundé? France may come in, and other actors or stakeholders internationally might become more interested and making it more complicated for us? Because it's a little bit complex if we want to look at it just the fact that, okay, Cameroon will need more support east of the Mongo. What is the strategic advantage? I want you to look at it from a diversified standpoint, please.
I think what many people don't remember is that we are not fighting to replace a Paul Biya with Tchiroma or whoever. We are trying to kill a system that has been so endemic and so pernicious in our society. A war in La République is to our advantage because it's going to battle their soldiers. It's going to diminish their strength and their ability, because their sole goal now is to be able to settle their differences in La République and then make it an about turn and come back to finish the business in Ambazonia. The more they fight, I would say good for us. But at the end of the day, we are not going to wait for them to fight. We are going to help to cripple this system. We are not only going to sit and bandage our wounded, we are not going to only sit and fan the flame, but we have to diminish their battle readiness and their battle abilities in Ambazonia with the soldiers that are there, so that they cannot have no reinforcement. This is the time that we must do it. This is the time, if Tchiroma really wants to do anything for La Republique, they should do it, because now they are confused. They are very, very confused with what's going on. If they wait and give them time to reconstruct themselves and get their alliances and make deals that is so sweet for their foreign backers, yes, they will have to fight. More people will die in that return. But at the end of the day, we have to do what we must do. We must do what we must do because we have to protect our people. And we have to protect our people by going on the offensive and taking out all these people who have stationed in forward bases in Ambazonia and make it ungovernable for them, and start constituting our government structures in local areas and have to start controlling, total control of the territory that we have, with no encumbrance from the administrators from La Republique or whoever that is. At the end of the day, we have to understand that and make all these people who are thinking that, they don't love war. War is a necessary thing when an uneasy peace lasts forever, with a lot of problems that we have. Our students don't go to school. Our students go to school and earn degrees but can't find work because, first of all, they speak English or they are from the English zone. So what kind of fine education are we waiting for? We are not fighting this war to have education. We are fighting to liberate ourselves. And all those people, like Comrade Gana said, they should contribute for this war, because liberty is not free. And some people may call us extremists, but as Barry Goldwater had stated earlier in '64, that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice. We have to understand that. And those of us who are in this front line fighting this war, which is sometimes a war of attrition of our people, we have to try as much as possible to limit the war. Most wars of liberation averages about 13 years. We are going into year 9. So if worst case scenario, we still have 4 more to go. But at the end of the day, we have to absolutely join forces with every Ambazonian, irrespective of what branch of your fight you're fighting. We have to fight the common enemy. We could keep our house in order after that.
That's a great one. For all those who are watching us via our social media handles on Facebook and particularly on YouTube, make sure you click the like button, hit the notification bell so that you're the first to know when we come live. Give your comments. I'm going to be reading comments. I might open the phone line at the tail end of this conversation. It's important when you like and you comment, you're telling your community on Facebook that this is an important conversation and that you're just fighting your own battle. Somebody will definitely be watching us. I want us to go right into the newsroom right now and find out what is happening in the world and what is happening in Africa that is related to the story of Ambazonia. When we come back, we'll get into a new phase of this conversation, and then we'll be looking at the legalities of Ambazonia's involvement in this war. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
On the global scene this week, political pressure continues to shape major decisions. In the United States, Democrats bowed to Republican demands, approving a bill that ended the longest government shutdown in the nation's history, an outcome that underscores the growing political pressure facing the U.S. Now, in French Cameroon, a similar dynamic played out as President Paul Biya's regime yielded to opposition's leader Tchiroma's ultimatum, releasing 60 detainees in a rare concession from the long-standing government. Meanwhile, in South Africa, a dramatic and unexpected development unfolded when a mystery plane carrying Palestinians from Gaza arrived without prior public disclosure. President Cyril Ramaphosa has pledged a thorough investigation as the incident tests South Africa's vocal support for the Palestinian cause. How will this situation picture the way the world sees it, especially on the global scene? Let's get into the details. Welcome to Global News. I am Tabitha Akor. Let's begin. South Africa has opened an investigation into the unexplained arrival of a chartered aircraft carrying 153 Palestinians from Gaza after the group was held for more than 10 hours on board at O Tambo International Airport due to missing departure stamps in their passport. President Cyril Ramaphosa said he was briefed on the situation after Home Affairs officials initially denied the group entry. Authorities later allowed 130 passengers into the country after a local charity intervened and officials verified their accommodation arrangement. The remaining 23 passengers continued to other destinations. All travelers held valid passports and none applied for asylum, officials confirmed. Let's take a look.
Yesterday we had a plane of 160, we're carrying 160 Palestinians landing at OR Tambo, and these are people from Gaza who somehow mysteriously were put on a plane that passed by Nairobi and came here. And I got to hear about it from my Minister of Home Affairs, wanting to know what do we do now. And I said, we cannot turn them back. Even though they do not have the necessary documents and papers, these are people from a strife-torn, a war-torn country. And out of compassion, out of empathy, we must receive them.
How does the global community feel and see serious actions, the circumstances surrounding their departure from Gaza, and how they were placed on the flight remain unclear? Local media reported that the aircraft passed through Nairobi before arriving in Johannesburg. Israel's military liaison office, Kogat, said the group left Gaza after receiving approval from an unnamed third country. Now, the Palestinian embassy in South Africa said the passengers had departed from Israel's Ramon Airport via Nairobi without prior coordination. It accused an unregistered organization of taking advantage of Gaza's humanitarian crisis by misleading families, collecting money, and arranging irregular travel. Now let's take a look. A lot of Palestinians are speaking up. Let's listen.
من الخروج من غزة خرجنا بدون أي مقتنيات شخصية فقط ما كنا يعني كل شيء أشياء كنا لابسينها.
People didn't know where they were going to. Some of them thought they were going to Indonesia. Some thought they were going to Malaysia. Others were not sure. Nobody knew they were coming to South Africa until they landed here. Why were the people not given any food on the plane? That's what the refugees told us. Thirdly, why did they wait 13 hours on the tarmac and not keep an air conditioner on and only keep one door open, and people were caught in a terrible condition?
Was this rather dramatic? Well, that was the situation on ground. Meanwhile, Home Affairs Minister Leon Schreiber said Palestinians normally qualify for 90-day visa-free entry, but missing departure stamps, no return ticket, and incomplete accommodation details triggered the initial refusal. Once authorities confirmed that the travelers were not seeking asylum and verified their lodging, they were admitted. Gift of the Givers, which is providing accommodation for the group, criticized airport authorities' conduct, saying the passengers were left waiting for hours on the tarmac and were prevented from receiving food supply by the organization, as we have just seen and listened. Now, civil society groups have urged authorities to investigate both the conditions the Palestinians fled in Gaza and the exact routes taken by the aircraft. One passenger told local media he was relieved to reach South Africa with his wife and children after surviving 2 years of conflict in Gaza. Now, South Africa has long been a strong supporter of the Palestinian cause, with its position rooted in solidarity efforts dating back to the early 1990s. Since the latest Gaza conflict began, the country has seen large pro-Palestinian demonstrations as well as smaller pro-Israel gatherings. So could that be the reason why a huge number of Palestinians moved over to South Africa? We see that in 2023, the records don't lie, South Africa filed a case at the International Court of Justice accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza, a claim Israel rejected as unfounded. Now, this is the situation right here in South Africa, and the actions that Cyril Ramaphosa will take will definitely project a picture the global world will definitely look into. Now, moving over to this development in the U.S., the United States Justice Department has agreed to open an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein's connections to former President Bill Clinton and financial institutions following a request from President Donald Trump. The announcement comes amid renewed scrutiny of Trump's own ties to the late financier. The decision follows the release of thousands of documents by a congressional committee earlier this week, which revived questions over Trump's relationship with Epstein. Now, the move also extends a pattern in which President Trump has urged federal law enforcement to also investigate individuals he considers political rivals. I mean, this is a battle between the Republicans and Democrats. So who gets to win? Let's take a listen.
This is a Democrat hoax. This is a hoax put out by the Democrat, and a few Republicans have gone along with it because they're weak and ineffective. But this is a Democrat hoax to get away from the fact that they just lost the shutdown and they've lost the election. Jeffrey Epstein and I had a very bad relationship for many years. But he also saw strength because I was president. So he dictated a couple of memos to himself. Give me a break.
Trump's rhetoric right there. Meanwhile, Attorney General Pam Bondi said Manhattan's top federal prosecutor, Dick Clayton, will lead the inquiry. The issue has intensified political tension among Trump supporters, many of whom have amplified theories that federal officials concealed details related to Epstein's death in a Manhattan jail in 2019. Legal experts warn that Trump's direct demands to investigate private citizens could expose resultant cases to claims of vindictive prosecution, a legal challenge already raised by former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. Now, neither challenge has yet been resolved by the court. Trump has also asked investigators to review the roles of former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers and LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. All three men, Clinton, Summers, and Hoffman, were named in more than 20,000 pages of documents released by the House Overnight Committee on Wednesday. J.P. Morgan, which maintained Epstein as a client from 1998 to 2013, said it regrets its past association and denied facilitating any wrongdoing. Clinton's team rejected suggestions of misconduct, and Hoffman urged the release of all Epstein-related files. Summers, on the other hand, did not immediately respond to a request to comment. Now, the Justice Department's decision comes despite a July memo stating there was no evidence supporting investigations into previously uncharged individuals who are connected to Epstein. Now, officials at the time reported finding no incriminating client list and no credible proof that Epstein blackmailed prominent figures. Now, President Donald Trump, in this situation, continues to face pressure over his past friendship with Epstein. And could this be an issue and a big setback to his political career, which dates back to the 1990s and early 2000s? He maintains his severe ties with before Epstein pleaded guilty in 2008 to charges involving a minor. Trump has denied any knowledge of Epstein's abuse or sex trafficking. The president, typically outspoken with reporters, has avoided questions in recent days as new documents surface. So what is President Trump hiding? The Republican-controlled House of Representatives is expected to vote next week on a measure requiring the Justice Department to release all Epstein-related materials. The bill is likely to pass despite efforts by House Speaker Mike Johnson to delay it. Approval by the Senate and Trump would still be needed to compel federal agencies to act. Now, a Reuters Ipsos poll in October found that only 4 in 10 Republicans approve of Trump's handling of the Epstein files, compared with more than 9 in 10 who approve of his overall performance as president. Now, Wasida Epstein, who died while awaiting trial on federal sex trafficking charges associated with numerous high-profile individuals, several, including Prince Andrew in the United Kingdom, faced reputational fallout over their ties to him. JP Morgan agreed in 2023 to pay $290 million to Epstein's victims to settle allegations that the bank ignored warning signs about its client, though it admitted no wrongdoing. So now no credible evidence has emerged linking Clinton, Summers, or Hoffman to Epstein's trafficking activities, and this is what Trump is looking out for. Each previously denied involvement or said they regretted the associations with him. Clinton, who will oversee the new probe, is a political independent who served as chair of the Securities and Exchange Commission during Trump's fourth term. Now, this is the recent development coming from the Epstein file. In the coming days, we'll definitely get more details with that. Now, taking you over to Hamas, Israel and Hamas. Since the peace deal brokered by President Donald Trump, what is happening in Hamas? How is Hamas reeling from this peace deal? And what is happening in Gaza, rather? And how is Israel and Hamas dealing with the whole situation? Hamas is gradually reasserting its authority across Gaza as international negotiations over the enclave's post-war governance proceed slowly. Residents say the group is expanded market oversight, regulating prices and imposing fees on privately imported goods, deepening concerns that it may not relinquish control despite foreign pressure. That's the boldness we would say coming from Hamas. Since last month's ceasefire, Hamas has moved quickly into areas vacated by Israeli forces, re-establishing armed control and carrying out executions of Palestinians it accused of collaboration, theft, or other crimes. While foreign governments insist Hamas must disarm and surrender political authority, no consensus has emerged on who will govern Gaza next. So could that be why Hamas has encroached into Gaza, going into the very place Israel withdrew from? Let's take a listen.
And second, you want to make sure that there are no weapons factories inside Gaza. There's no smuggling of weapons into Gaza. That's demilitarization. We agreed that that's part of the plan. And we also agreed, okay, let's get the first part done.
Hamas authorities now monitor all goods entering areas under their control, imposing fees on imports such as fuel and cigarettes and levying fines on merchants suspected of price manipulation. 3 merchants with direct knowledge confirmed the practice. So Hamas officials denied introducing new taxes. Ismail al-Tawabta, head of the group's media office, said the administration is focused on urgent humanitarian duties and stabilizing prices, insisting the movement remains committed to a smooth transition toward a technocratic interim government. But with what we're seeing is Hamas even ready to disarm. However, many residents report heightened intervention. Business owners say officials are touring markets, inspecting inventories, and setting retail prices. Shoppers in central Gaza describe volatile costs for basic goods, reflecting supply shortages and a wider economic collapse. Well, the United States President Donald Trump's Gaza plan, announced alongside the October 10 ceasefire and the release of the remaining Israeli hostages, envisions Hamas disarmament, deployment of a multinational security force, and the formation of a transitional authority ahead of reconstruction. Now, this was the 20 peace plan brokered by President Donald Trump. So Hamas is yet to disarm, and the world is watching and the world is looking up to these. But multiple sources told Reuters that Gaza's de facto partition now appears more likely, with Israeli forces maintaining control over more than half the territory and political negotiations advancing slowly. Nearly all of Gaza's 2 million residents live in areas controlled by Hamas, which ousted President Mahmoud Abbas' Palestinian Authority in 2007. Analysts say the group's latest actions are intended to demonstrate that it remains the dominant governing factor and cannot be replaced easily. The longer international actors delay implementing the transition plan, the more entrenched Hamas becomes. But will that be possible? A United States Department spokesperson responding to reports of increased Hamas economic oversight in Gaza reaffirmed Washington's position that the group will not govern Gaza under the emergent political framework. The spokesperson said progress is being made toward forming the multinational force once the UN endorses the plan. The Palestinian Authority is pushing for a central role in Gaza's next governing arrangement, though Israel opposes its return. Fatah and Hamas remain divided over how a post-war leadership structure should be designed. Now, in easily controlled zones, smaller Palestinian factions hostile to Hamas have re-emerged, posing another challenge to the group's authority. Gazans continue to face severe hardship despite increased aid delivery since the ceasefire. Importers say Hamas has not reinstated its full pre-war taxation system, but now document all incoming goods through checkpoints and inspections. Fines for price manipulation have lowered some costs, but prices remain far above pre-war levels, and residency purchasing power has collapsed. Now, we see that before the war, the Hamas-run administration employed up to 50,000 workers, including police. Thousands have been killed, but officials say remaining personnel are prepared to serve under any incoming interim authority. Hamas has continued to pay salaries during the conflict, standardizing wages to 1,500 shekels per month, reportedly drawing from stockpiled funds. Now, we see that what Hamas is doing rise in Gaza. The group has already replaced several officials killed in the conflict, including 4 regional governors and 11 members in Gaza Politburo. Hamas is using the slow pace of the Trump plan to consolidate its governance structures further, likely maintaining its influence until an agreed upon alternative authority is installed. This is the tactics Hamas is using. But with the word watching, with the word keep looking at what is happening right here in Gaza and what is happening with Hamas and Israel, well, the coming days will definitely give us more details, and then we will get to explore more in this topic. This is where we'll be ending it at the global news, and we're moving right over to the home front. But right then, we'll be handing this over to our news director, Mr. Tarh.
That's simply amazing, Tabitha. Thank you very much for that global coverage. Barrister Gana, I know your perspective. At least we have had conversations on this platform for at least 3 years or 4 years now. So I know to some extent, I know your perspective when it comes to global politics and the way you're viewing some of these things. But now you're officially representing the nation of Ambazonia in foreign affairs. So perhaps you've had some teeth in it. And I also would want to say that you have the right co-panelist, who is SOS Zama, to join you in this conversation. Looking at what is happening, Tabitha has taken a time to examine the consequences of power mongering around the world. What is happening in South Africa is a consequence of the war. The news she presented today is a consequence of the war and the wrestle in the Middle East. The way the world is approaching it, the way Washington is looking at things. I have always held the opinion that this has a direct impact, or this can help us estimate the measure by which Washington can be involved in our plight. Looking at all of these and following the reports that have come in, I'd like to hear from you, Barrister Gana, and then we'll get your opinion on that. SOS Zama, please. Barrister Gana, please. You're muted. I'm sure you muted yourself because you didn't want some noise. Please.
Correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Yeah, one of the things that all of this, whether it's the situation in Gaza with Israel tussling with the Palestinians, or the situation in Ukraine, where Russia is attacking, and there's been a technological war, still war belt in Ukraine, in the Donbass, that is seeming impenetrable to the Russians. One thing that is apparently clear and manifestly clear is that the United States wields a lot of power. The United States is still the superpower in the world. And the position that the United States takes is very consequential. And to me, again, some of us who are present here in the United States, some of us who are citizens, I am a citizen of the United States, some of us who are citizens are in a very privileged position, that with the right resources and with the right knowledge and with the right approach, can lobby the United States and shift its positions or move its positions towards Ambazonia, towards attaining our independence. I am one who fervently believes that we have the ability, through diplomacy and through networking the halls of the United States Congress and the United States Senate, to move the United States towards suing for our independence. I have absolutely no doubt. In my conversation with senators, in my conversation with congressmen and congresswomen, I have been able to establish that fact, that all we need to do is have the right resources within our community to marshal the efforts towards pushing the representatives that matter towards retaining our independence. That can be done. But one thing that is also clear is that French Cameroon has gotten to a vortex, has gotten to a point where the chips can no longer be manipulated. They've gotten to a point where French Cameroonians are now bleeding profusely to the injustice that has crept up, to the pool, to the cesspool that has been built in French Cameroon due to Ambazonia being held down. And it's gotten to the point where the international community is also being adversely affected. SOS Zama brilliantly articulated on how they could not even construct the right pipes, put in the right dimensions of pipes to be able to forecast the expansion of Yaoundé, and to estimate the right pipes to be put to be able to carry that water supply. Yaoundé is a cesspool of garbage. Everywhere there's garbage, this regime from the south cannot even clean garbage in the capital of the country. This is the 21st century. We are in 2025. And these gross underachievers in Yaoundé and from the south cannot even deliver clean pipe-borne water to Yaoundé. You think the diplomatic community does not see this? They do. You think they are not tired of that kind of kleptocracy, that kind of bunch of underachievers holding Cameroon in hostage? They see it. And so we just have to make the right moves to separate ourselves from that regime. And that will also help French Cameroon to be able to deal with its own internal politics. And I'm going to tell you something, Comrade Paddy. One of the things that has kept Yaoundé, that has kept French Cameroon in that kind of an underachieving dictatorship is Ambazonia. It's the presence of Ambazonia. You take Ambazonia out of French Cameroon, they will be able to sort their issues out. You take Ambazonia out of that equation, they will be able to face themselves in truth and be able to fix their country. But for about 65 years, under Ahidjo until 1982, and under Biya for the past 43 years since 1982, they've always seen Ambazonia as the opposition. So it was easier to hate the opposition, to repress the opposition, to cheat the opposition, while they didn't fix those democratic structures within French Cameroon. And because those democratic structures are absent, they are at the abyss of collapse. And we are not going to be collapsing with them because Ambazonia has already separated itself. We already restored the independence of Ambazonia. With the help of people like CSOS Zama and our freedom fighters, we just need to enforce our sovereignty. So yes, all what is happening is all manifesting towards us being able to lobby great powers such as the United States towards those moves that will help us establish our independence. And let me tell you something. I was in Chicago in 2019 having a meeting with the senior senator from Illinois, and it took us less than 15 minutes to convince him of the reality of the independence of Ambazonia. All you need to do is print all of those UN resolutions that I just read. UN Resolution 1514, UN Resolution 1541, UN Resolution 1608, and demonstrate other examples. Like I say, one of those examples is the example of Namibia. And Resolution 269 regarding Namibia that was passed in 1970 demonstrated that Namibia's situation is similar to the situation of Ambazonia. It was when the United Nations passed this resolution on Namibia in 1970, that told the South, because the South Africans were attempting to colonize or annex Namibia, just like French Cameroon is trying to colonize Ambazonia. But the status of Namibia as an independent territory or a trusteeship territory came out of the Treaty of Versailles in 1919. Same with French Cameroon, same with Ambazonia, same with Togo. All of these territories were independent trust territories, which in 1960, the United Nations, within UN Resolution 1541, passed a resolution that all of these countries were supposed to be given independence irrespective of their economic status and irrespective of their political preparedness. And what happened? All of these territories got their independence, except Ambazonia, because the French and the British colluded in the decolonization committees to craft this whole nonsense of independence by joining. Independence by joining. But again, the trap was in UN Resolution 1608 that says all of the parties, the Southern Cameroons, French Cameroon, France, had to meet to determine the modalities of the union. And a federation was contemplated at that time. But did we ever meet to hammer out the modalities of the union? No, we never met. So the will of Ambazonia, the signature of Ambazonia, the constituent will of Ambazonians was never given towards being in any union with French Cameroon. So we have never been properly ceded to French Cameroon. So we remain an independent nation, and as SOS Zama said, we just have to enforce our independence.
That's amazing. Now, talking about UN resolutions, the UN Charter, the betrayal of their own norms, because they started that during, I would say, pre-colonial times or during the decolonization period. The strange proposal, it wasn't even a proposal, it was an imposition on Ambazonia that you would have to get your own independence by joining. Very strange. But now, SOS Zama, this is where I'm coming. Looking at the war in Ambazonia with a lens of how the West is looking at the wars in the Middle East. America's position. France has contravened. We've had a couple of countries that will contravene America's position in the Middle East. Even though Barrister Gana believes, it's not just a belief, he's actually arguing that America continues to wield a lot of power. When you look through this diplomatic lens, the way the West is behaving with what is happening in the Middle East, are you comfortable with the future of Ambazonia if we have to depend or follow the same strategy as opposed to our diplomacy? Please talk to us.
I think my greatest fear is that we don't want to be burden our people with the fact that, oh, the government that's ruling Ambazonia was a government selected by foreigners. I think we should leave this thing organic as it is. We have been fighting this war. Yes, we need a vision. We need an understanding. We need a recognition from other countries to enter the world of modern diplomacy. But at the end of the day, we must, as a people, fight this war. If we think that liberty is costly enough, we should sacrifice all we can to get that liberty. It's only when we can define that and say, yes, this is ours, then we can really fight it. When we have things of people coming back to do ungovernable things back home. As it is, if we continue to rely on the fact that we will have help from the Europeans or the Americans, yes, it's good. But that fight is an organic fight that started with leaves and palm fronds. We have to fight that fight. And I go back again calling on our people that this fight must be funded. We cannot sit here and talk and go and get our young men and women killed. We need the equipment in the field. We need equipment to fight the enemy. The enemy is at the gate. They are in our living rooms. They are in our bedrooms, raping our mothers, raping our sisters, and killing our children and burning down people. We have to understand that this war is not a war of it's not a war of a choice. We did not select to fight this war. We asked for a hearing. We asked for an opportunity to be listened to, but they never gave us a chance. They declared war on us. So we are fighting a defensive war. We never went on offensive. We've not killed a single of La Republique citizen in Ambazonia because of the fact that they are La Republique citizens. No, we've gone after the military, and we are doing a great job. And I say the ASA are really doing a great job professionally than the professional army of the La Republique that's being called. But we at the end of the day have to realize, yes, we need our foreign partners, yes, but we cannot rely on them because they are dependent on interest. They'll look at their own interests all the time, and we have to put our own interests at hand first. And if in those equations we are partners in that agreement, yes, we will go with all foreign partners to get what we get. But at the end of the day, it's our fight to fight. We are not looking for any Salvation Armies coming into Ambazonia.
And there's no doubt that yeah, go ahead.
Yes, Comrade Paddy, let me just add to that. And SOS Sylvester Zama brilliantly stated that this is our fight to lose. We can only win this fight if we make the effort. The ASA deserves to be supported, and the ASA needs the equipment it needs to enforce our independence. But let me state something, okay? La Republique has been an independent, they presumably attained their independence in 1960, 1st of January, when France presumably gave them the independence within the construct that it did. La Republique has never had a chance to be a nation. They've had two leaders, and none of those two leaders have been chosen by citizens of La Republique. Ahidjo was chosen by France, and Biya was chosen by France. So La Republique itself is in bondage. But the problem is that this bondage has come to a head that has to be resolved. And it is at the cusp of violence. And I've always said that when that violence breaks up in La Republique, it's going to be a battle of all against all. It's going to be a battle of all against all, like we are seeing. But the point I want to make is that there is no way, and this is why Ambazonians should be smiling and contributing every bit they can, as SOS Zama said, to reinforce our independence. There is absolutely no way La Republique can resolve this issue in French Cameroon without letting Ambazonia go. It's the perfect trap for French Cameroon. Because what they are facing, the international community would have to come in to resolve it. And let me tell you why. The South and the center, they're like 15%, 10 to 15% of the population. Frundi was deprived of his victory. Kamto was deprived of his victory. Now Tchiroma has been deprived of his victory. So we are talking about 15% of against 80% of the country. There is no way they can perpetuate that leadership of the South for the next 30 years. Because if Tchiroma gives up, then the entire country is basically saying, we are surrendering this corrupt country to these people of the South for the next 30 years. It will not happen. Okay, look at it from the perspective of the South. The suit that we filed at the ICJ, okay, at the ICC, has all of these leaders in the South listed. From even Tchiroma is listed in those filings. From Betinga, whatever his name is, to Ayolo Mvodo, to Paul Atanga, to Ferdinand Gongo, all of them, they are listed in that petition to the ICC, which the ICC has opened an investigation on, including all of those leaders. So these people from the South, these people in the regime, know of the atrocities they have committed. As SOS Zama said, they've committed rapings of our women, killing of our people, burning of our homes, burying people alive, committing all kinds of gruesome murders, committing all of these massacres like Ngabu, like Kwakwa, like Yoke, like, you name it, which are all documented in that ICC filing. When the regime in the South loses power, the ICC is going to come down on all of them. So they have the incentive to fight to the death, because absent of them staying in power, they're going to the International Criminal Court. So we have an immovable force against an irresistible force in terms of the South now facing the North. And I don't see any of them backing down. So it's going to descend to bloodshed. Because when you have 10% of the country...
And even if we look at the South right now, that the South was a great attachment and collaborators, there is some form of disentanglement in the unity of the South, like you have mentioned. And they're counting so much on people like Cabral, Libi, who pretend to be oppositions, and they're not. But then we're going to get back into what's happening in the Cameroons, which is important for Onye to tell us what is happening in Ambazonia right now, or in the Cameroons. The president sent out an important message yesterday. I'd like us to examine it. There are some things that both of you have said. You have Commission Sec, Zama made mention of something which I took note. It has to do with us taking our future in our own hands. We're going to look at what we've been able to achieve for the past 8 to 9 years, and what we're able to still achieve based on the resources that we have right now in terms of human, material resources, the strategies to mobilize more of these resources. We're going to look at that in connection with our partnership, the partnership we hope to initiate with either Washington. I know the president leans more on Washington. We're also going to look at the demarcation between these two countries that have been submerged into a fake triangle called the Republic of Cameroon. That will be some of the things that we will examine closely to conclude this program. But before we even get into that, let's find out what is happening at the home front and what is happening with Ambazonia this week.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tarh. Heading straight to the president's analysis yesterday, the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia delivered a stirring address that was more than a speech. It was a meditation on life, legacy, and responsibility. At first glance, the speech appeared to reflect on the fleeting nature of human existence, but a closer examination revealed layers of symbolic meaning and a call to action for all Ambazonians. The president began by observing the busy streets full of people rushing to the fore. He contrasts this with the past, asking where these people were a century ago and reminding listeners that those who lived 100 years ago are now gone. This sets the stage for a meditation on the transitory nature of life, framing every human being as a tenant on earth with a limited lease. In doing so, the speech forces Ambazonians and citizens to confront mortality, a subtle reminder that time is our most valuable resource. Let's get that.
Fellow Ambazonians, brothers and sisters, this morning I woke up, I looked outside. As I walked to my balcony, I saw hundreds of people rushing. I saw cars, I saw people walking, saw people riding on bikes. I saw everywhere busy. And I asked myself, 100 years ago, where were all these people? Where were they? They were nowhere to be found. Where are those who were here 100 years ago? They are gone. All of them swept away like the wind. They are gone. And now, this I see here is a new set of human beings inhabiting the earth. And I can tell you for sure that in the next 75 years, 99.99% of the people I saw this morning will still be here. Everyone will be swept away, gone. And there will be a new set of people occupying this earth. You and I will be gone. Gone. You know where? We'll be gone probably to the same road. We'll take the same road, but maybe two different destinations. Of course, if you believe, you know that there will be darkness and light on the other side, heaven and hell. But we'll all walk the same road, disappear. Death will come. We will go. You listening to me now, your own can happen before mine. I cannot laugh at you because we are all going to get through that door. So now that it's established that we all are just some glorified tenants on this earth. Some of us have a 70-year lease. Some people have 40-year lease. Some people have even 80 years lease. Some have just probably 10, 15, 20 years lease. Now, look at your lease. How far is it now? Are you halfway into your lease term? Are you 3/4 into your lease term? Or have you already completed your lease term and you're just waiting for the bell to ring at any time now? So who is man that his only care and concern is how to beat down another human being, how to tear down another human being, how to fight, how to insult, how to concoct lies, how to destroy the other person, how to pull the other one down? Really? Is that what you want to use your lease on earth to do? How much time do you have? Is that what you want to use the remaining of your time to do? And I said to myself, among all these people who inhabited the earth and that today are no more, can I even remember them? Can you remember them? Have you seen their names anywhere? Have you walked on the street and seen their names written? Oh, this guy lived here. This guy, I was here. This is me. I had this. I had money in the bank. I had this one. I had a car. I bought the first car. My salary was the highest in the city. Have you seen, do you even know them? They passed on and they are forgotten. We too, this generation, you listening to me, you and I will pass on and will be forgotten. Yes, you are better than me. You are richer than me. You are more educated than me. You went to a better school than me. You have more money than me. You are more handsome than me. You are more beautiful than me. But that doesn't matter. We are all tenants who will be swept very soon away by life and will be gone. The only thing that will matter after that, to us and to those who remain, to our children, is what you did for them. The only things that will be remembered is not you, it's the things that you did for the generation that came after you. If you did nothing for them, why should they remember you? Why? Why should you be remembered? And those of you who only focus on doing for your family, even your family will forget you. The only one in the family they will not forget is the one that does things that will affect generations to come after them.
Oh, well, it is the call. The speech is a call to live with intentionality. The president repeatedly emphasized that wealth, beauty, education, or social status will not endure beyond death. Instead, he argues the only legacy that survives is the impact we have on future generations by showing and highlighting the example of his late vice president, Comrade Eric Ate. He underscored the principle that true significance comes from contributions that transcend personal gain, work that benefits society and leaves a mark on history. Let's get that.
Knowing that our time is short, I call on every one of us to focus to do the things that you need to do, that will be worthy of remembrance and appreciation by the next generation after you are gone. That's the only thing that matters. When you wake up in the morning, what do you do? What do you call your assignment of the day? As we edge towards the term of our lease on earth, let our focus be to do the things we need to do. That's why my late vice president, Comrade Eric Ate, told me, he said, we will not be remembered by anything we have done in this life more than what we do for Ambazonia. That's what he told me. I said, I know that. He said, that's why we must hold it to the end, because truly, today he is gone. Very soon, the only place his name will be mentioned, very soon, is about Ambazonia. Because when it comes to Ambazonia, everything he did was not for himself, it was for another generation. So that generation will remember him. I beg of you, don't call people left and right to insult me. You are wasting the breath that God gave you. That is borrowed breath. You know that? One day the owner will take it from you. So use it well, right? Use it for the things that will be remembered. Don't call another person struggling to live his own life and finish his own lease, and you want to tear down another person. You want to pull down another person. Matter of fact, you churn lies. You fabricate stories and lies against your brother, against your sister, because you can avoid him in this life. When we cross the line to the other side, we'll be together. You know that? Because that road is one. We shall find ourselves on the other side together. You can avoid me. I can avoid you now. But when we cross the road, when we cross the bridge to the other side, we will all find ourselves together. So anything that is not helping you to make a mark here, to do that which you need to do for the benefit of others after you are gone, is a distraction. Clear it away. Put it aside and do something. I challenge you, do something. I'm doing my own. You can wait. You can sit there and tell me how I'm not doing enough. I'm just doing my best. Okay, you do.
The president addresses human tendencies towards envy, conflict, and destruction, framing them as distractions from the real purpose of life. He warns against wasting time tearing others down, spreading lies, or chasing petty personal victories. The speech suggests that individual ambition should coexist with collective progress, that climbing one's own ladder does not require undermining another. This is a symbolic call for unity, ethical leadership, and social responsibility. One of the most striking themes is the valorization of sacrifice. The president explicitly states that much of the work being done for Ambazonia is not for personal benefit, but for the welfare of future generations. Now, this reinforces a central thesis of the speech. The measure of a life well lived is found not in what one possesses, but in what one gives to others. Let's get that.
In this life, everybody has his own ladder to climb. Everybody has his own ladder. I have my own ladder to climb. You don't have to bring me down my ladder for you to climb. Just climb your ladder. Make your mark. Do your best. Forget about the other. Forget about the other person. Climb your ladder. Climb your ladder. Climb it. If I come down from my ladder, does that take you up your ladder? No. And of what use it is for me to go down my ladder so that you can you can climb your own ladder? How am I an obstacle for you from climbing your ladder? Go ahead. Climb your ladder. Make sure you get to the top before you leave, and make sure that as you get to the top, you do things that will be remembered after you go. I don't want to be remembered as the insulter in chief. I don't want to be remembered as the conniver, as the conspirator, as the betrayer, as the traitor. I don't want to be remembered as the one who insulted more people, blackmailed people, hated people. That's too dark. That's not what I want to be remembered for. I don't know about you. You can take a brush and brush all this away from you and just continue to do your best. After all, let me tell you, For 90% of us who are literally doing what we are doing to free Ambazonia, we don't need Ambazonia to live a comfortable life. We don't need Ambazonia. I don't need Ambazonia to live a comfortable life for me and my family. So why are we sacrificing? Why are we putting our lives on the line? Why are we putting our families on the line? Why are we putting everything on the line? Why are we giving so much time for this? It's because we feel that it is the right thing to do. Not for our benefit, but for some unknown person, somebody probably of another generation. Even if the bells ring today and the trumpets sound and we are in Biya, some of us might not even be anywhere in the governance of that country. Even if we do, in terms of material gain, it will be a demotion to some of us. Yes, because I don't know any African president. How many African presidents earn up to $100,000 a year? Name them. How many African ministers earn up to $100,000 a year? So to the majority of people who are digging and helping and doing something, it's not for their welfare. It's not so that they will be great and successful. No, it is a sacrifice. These are the things that people will remember after you are gone, because it will affect the next generation, not you, not me. Some people will call me and tell me, have you heard this one? Did you hear this one? I say, wow. I said, I don't have time for that. I have time to do something because my time is short. My time is short. I don't know about your time. If you have all the time in the world, if you are the landlord of this earth and then we are just the ones passing, no problem. Because you have all the time to swim in negatives and do everything that you like and pull down people and tear down people, lie against them, destroy their enterprise, destroy their family, destroy their name and paint them black and still have a life to live. I don't have time. My own time is too short and too precious. And I challenge you, let your time be so precious that you know to choose who to go with and who not to go with.
Okay, so the speech functions on multiple symbolic levels. If you've heard the speech up until now, you realize that it's so much on emotion. Now, let's start with the balcony observation. For all we know, that can symbolize perspective, seeing life as it moves forward while reflecting on the past. The lease, it's a metaphor. It communicates mortality, urging Ambazonians to act with urgency. How about the ladder imagery? It should convey individuals' purpose while promoting ethical ambition without hampering others. Now, for us to conclude the speech analysis, a speech for the ages, ultimately, President Zama Sako's message is both personal and universal. It is a reminder that time is fleeting and that our choices today shapes the memory we'll live tomorrow. Beyond political or social commentary, it is a philosophical guide urging Ambazonians to live deliberately, act responsibly, and contribute meaningfully to the generations that follow. The speech can be said to be a blueprint, a ladder for leadership, for legacy, and for civic morality, and it challenges every listener to ask one basic question: what will I leave behind when I am gone? Yes. Well, while you're trying to answer that, let's move into neighboring French Cameroons, where President Paul Biya's latest reshuffle of the International School of Security Forces comes amidst a deepening instability in the Cameroons, where fiercely contested presidential election and rising tension within the armed forces have put the 92-year-old leader on edge. The change, announced November 12th by the presidency, followed the arrest of soldiers in the far north region of the French Cameroon accused of plotting a coup, a sign that internal cracks within the military may be widening. Now, this reshuffle is only the latest in a cascade of changes. Biya has reorganized the military more than 6 times in the past year, a rhythm that began after a spate of coups toppled governments across neighboring countries. The pattern reflects a leadership increasingly preoccupied with survival. Each new appointment appears calibrated to reinforce loyalty, insinuating the presidency from potential dissent in the ranks as rumors of factionalism circulate. But Biya's fixation on preserving power is unfolding against intense public dissatisfaction. His declared victory in the October 12th vote has been met with all forms of protest, particularly in major cities where citizens have denounced the result as illegitimate and demanded political change. The unrest has been met with heavy-handed repression, in the sense that the government is prioritizing control over dialogue or reform. Instead of addressing the dire economic pressures, unemployment, and deteriorating public services that fuels popular anger, the president of the French Cameroon is doubling down on security maneuvers. His repeated reshuffling of military leadership exposes his fear of both public uprising and disloyalty within the armed forces. It also highlights how disconnected his government has become from the needs of ordinary Cameroonians who see their welfare sidelined, while the president focuses on security and focuses on remaining in power. Well, Mr. Tarh, these are just a few of the reports that we feel we should bring to the front burner on This Week on Undaunted.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I hope I can have our panelists and analysts to be back. We are getting to a new phase of the conversation. This is going to be the most important part for this conversation, which I think we need to engage on right now. I want to bring you back, Barrister Gana. I don't know if you're still there. And SOS Zama, I'd like to bring you both of you back. I cannot see Barrister Gana. Barrister Gana, are you there? Okay, you've just listened to the president. There's much that I want us to talk on, but I like you, SOS Zama, to first of all comment on the president there before we talk about what is happening east of the Mongo. Please. You heard the president there making a clarion call, and at the same time, he's saying some things that are really important.
The president has been in the forefront of this fight, and it's a question of selflessness, given that we are fighting this war thousands of miles away. We could sit at home and be comfortable and not do anything. I can tell people that you don't need to do a lot to contribute for this fight. We are not asking people to give up their mortgages. We are not asking people to give up their car notes in order to support this fight. You can tweak your life in little ways that will help this fight. I can tell you what I do in my household. My household, we stopped using the dryer after laundry for about 7 years now. Most of the laundry is hung up in a line in the basement, and it dries. So we are saving some money to be able to provide some services to the Ambazonian people, to the Ambazonian soldiers, to do what they must do to defend homeland. We are asking every Cameroonian to make an effort. The president is saying, yes, we are not doing this because we want to come be some minister back home, or I'll be in my 70s when this thing goes over. And 70 years old people cannot run a government. We want 35-year-old men and women who are right down there, who are able, who are educated to run a government when we liberate Ambazonia. But we have to make it's a joint effort. We will contribute where we can contribute here with knowledge and money, and we have our people back home to do much of the fighting. Some people have questioned, oh, why are you there? Why your children are going to school? Well, I'm fighting this war where I am with what I have and how I can support. We did not start this war. We did not go stoke the enemy. The enemy came to us. So we must, as a people, understand that we have to contribute for this fight, because freedom is not going to be limited to the people who fought. Freedom is not going to be limited to the people who contributed to this fight. It's everybody's is going to earn freedom. And seeing what the president said, The president sits here. We go along. Sometimes he doesn't have money. He struggles with us like we do, all of us here. We have sleepless nights when they send these photos of people who have been mangled, and you're worrying how these people have been treated. Who's going to pay the bill? How are we going to pay the bill? Sometimes we take money out of our pockets to send to these people to treat them. Those soldiers are our citizens. They are our citizens. They are our children. They are brothers and sisters, mothers and sisters. So we have to contribute to this fight in the sense that we don't have to gain something. Just the mere fact that we have to have dignity, not to be said anglophone, tu penses à gauche, anglophone, tu es ceci, c'est là, tu es de Bamenda. We have to stop all those mockery, accept the fact. But I can tell you, we are standing up to this animal called La République like men, because what is going on in East Cameroon should not have happened for 43 years. Going in Yaoundé. I know the mayor of Yaoundé when I was growing up. It was called Fuda Andre Marie. When you throw trash out and he sees you, he will whip your butt. And you ask you to pick up, and you pick up for the whole of that Vogada line or street when he lived in that area. So we have to understand that, yes, things have gone. And the men in East Cameroon have not been men. They've let their women fight this fight. Their mothers have fought for them to send them through school. They've been educated, but they cannot find work, and they come back and stay in the house with their same mother who sent them to school from childhood. They have not been up to the task. This is the time. This is the opportunity that they need to go out there. They don't need to fight a war. They don't need to have a gun. The power of the people has always been the people. It's not the weapons. Like Hannibal Barca said about the Romans. He said, the Romans' power, it does not lie in their armies. It lies in their people. So if the people of that Tchiroma thinks to be controlling can muster all the energy to break down that country, if the country, nothing goes economically, the country cannot pay its bills. The country will be at default of all its loans. It's taken massive amounts of loans. And who are going to pay it? It's not the old people who are going to have pardons and run to Europe and stay in comfort in Paris or Switzerland. The Anglophones or the Francophones who are living in that country will pay this debt. So if you do not fight it now, it will be too late. If you cannot take a stand right now, you've taken a stand not to take a stand, and you have forfeited your right to have any questions or any discussions in the future. You've sold out the interests of your own children. So those of you in Ambazonia who say, oh, that one I think Ambazonia, my family done that. Yes, war is carnage. Somebody has to die for others to survive. That's the unfortunate thing that we have. If we could fight a war with nobody dying, I would choose that option. But that's not an option that we can choose. We did not choose an option to fight a war right now. But we must as a people, if only for our own survival. Because I know people who are in this country who are having post-traumatic stress disorders because of the pictures and what they are hearing from back home. We cannot be at peace when homeland is in turmoil. We cannot be at peace when homeland, every day they're killing our own citizens, our people from our own villages and towns, burning down houses and all that stuff. So do your best, do your contribution. We have made mistakes when this war started. Nobody went to war college to study war, nobody. This thing made us unprepared, and we are preparing as we go. So we've had mistakes. We've done, people have done things that they were not supposed to do in a fight. They've done things they were not supposed to do in financing. Yes, but we are not going to give up the fight. We are not going to give up the fight because a few people made errors. It's a team sport. If your defender or your attacker makes a mistake or your midfielder makes a mistake in soccer, the defenders have to cover it up, or the goalkeeper has to cover it up. We are in that situation where we have to clean up the piece, pick up the pieces and move on and help this republic stabilize and help this republic come to fruition. Your contribution to diplomacy, your contribution to the soldiers, your contribution to the prisoners who are in there with infestations. Some of them are so sick and all on that. It's our role, it's our personality to help. And Anglophones and Ambazonians are those people. We can educate them. We've shown the light. We've shown the light to this thing, and the people from La République are following ourselves. You can hear them using the word now. On va commencer un autre Bamenda ici, ou on va commencer notre Ambabo International ici. That's the power of influence, and we are doing it in big way.
That's amazing right there. Talking about mistakes made, There is more to that, and that's where I'm coming to your legal mindset there, Barrister Gana. You have Cameroon in every effort to delegitimize our movement. And by so doing, we have had government officials, notably Paul Atanga Nji, and some CPDM loyalists. We know of all CPDM loyalists in Ambazonia now illegally recruiting armed men to infiltrate the genuine Ambazonian fighters. This is a whole setup. All of that is to delegitimize and to present us as terrorists in the global scene. We have now also seen the involvement of Ambazonian diaspora, especially through their government. These guys are seeking to tag people like you and many others as terrorists. Their objective is just to make sure that we do not get the international support as we seek, or to intimidate and manipulate the diaspora from aiding the people that are under Cameroon's carnage. How do we navigate or conduct ourselves in all of this? I'm going to come into what is happening on the ground there to pinpoint on some of the things that Onye reported earlier on. But I want you to cue in from there and to link up with what SOS Zama was talking about. Please, Barrister Gana.
First of all, Comrade Paddy, one of the things that we have to realize is that there's nobody in French Cameroon that can delegitimize us. There's nobody in the international community that can delegitimize the sovereign nature of Ambazonia. The authoritative rulings are so huge that there's no way you can delegitimize that. They have tried, but they cannot. So let me list some of those authoritative rulings, why it's a fool's errand for anybody to try to delegitimize our legitimacy. 1, the Constitutive Act of the African Union, Article 4B of that act says, calls on all countries to respect their borders at independence. Calls on all countries to respect their borders at independence. When French Cameroon had its independence, 1st January 1960, Ambazonia was not part of French Cameroon. So all they need to do is respect their borders, respect the international rulings. In fact, if you listen to all of these conflicts that are going on around the world that have a bearing on sovereignty, not too many of them have as much strength in their sovereignty as Ambazonia has. Even when Augustin Dangam and Kevin Goumet sued French Cameroon in the African Human Rights Court, this is an organ of the United Nations seated in Banjul. They sued the Cameroon government. Cameroon government was represented. The Cameroon government was losing, and when they were losing, they tried as much as possible to delay the ruling of that case. At the end of it, the African Human Rights Court, seated in Banjul, ruled that the rights of Augustin Dangam and Kevin Goumet were violated in contravention of international law, and that, but what was very peculiar was Article 20 of that ruling. Article 20 of that ruling said the Southern Cameroons have a legitimate right to self-determination. That is very powerful. I mean, if Southern Cameroon or Ambazonia was an integral part of French Cameroon, there's no way the international court seated in Banjul would have ruled that Ambazonia or the Southern Cameroons have a legitimate right to self-determination. If you look at, again, I talked about the 1970 UN Resolution 269, that ruled out South Africa didn't have any claim to Namibia. That ruled that Namibia, consistent with the Treaty of Versailles in 1919, was an independent country that needed to have its own independence. So if you look at all of these international rulings, and there are similar rulings that do not have to do with Ambazonia. If you look at the 1993 ICJ ruling between Libya and Chad, where Gaddafi was trying to occupy Azu Strip, that borderline between Chad and Libya, where they fought a war on who the Azu Strip belonged to. And they went back to international treaties. And consistent with those international treaties, just like the ones we read about Ambazonia, it was established that the Azu Strip belonged to Chad, and Gaddafi had to pull out. So there's no way they can delegitimize our struggle. There's no way they can delegitimize the independence of Ambazonia. But what can we do? Like SOS Zama said, if you've given, continue to give more. Contribute to the struggle. And there is this syndrome we have, and this is something that really plagues our people. I call it the if no be me syndrome. Let me repeat that again. I call it the if no be me syndrome. We saw it happen over the past 7 years, where a lot of groups had to split away from the federal government because they were trying to assert authority that was not embedded in precedent or embedded in the constitutionality of the governing of the struggle for Ambazonia. So we have to learn to follow leadership. After Ayuk Tabe Seko was arrested, consistent with what was signed in Zaire, consistent with how that evolved, Dr. Samuel Sako became the leader, the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. We have to learn to submit to that leadership and try to do everything we can to submit our success through that leadership. But again, there's this syndrome called if no be me syndrome, where people want to stand from a distance and criticize. People want to delegitimize his leadership. People want to think that they can go on their own route, pursue their own cause to succeed. There is no success in division, because the whole is always bigger than the sum of its constituent parts. So there's a lot that we can do to foster our cause. There's a lot that we can do to sensitize the outside world about our sovereignty. But make no mistake, irrespective of all of those, French Cameroon, and all of these quacks on social media, they cannot delegitimize us because they cannot quote any law that assesses the right of French Cameroon to Ambazonia. Again, the proof is in the pudding. The fact that they are caught up in such an intractable situation is manifest of the fact that they have not let Ambazonia go. Look at the case of Sudan. Look at what is brewing now between the Sudanese, between the rebel army that was like the Janjaweed, being headed by this rebel general, and the Sudanese army. Look at how many people they've killed. Why? Because they practice in Sudan, or the northern Sudan, to oppress the south, just like French Cameroon is oppressing Ambazonia. And after practicing to oppress the south, and this rebel army in Sudan, what was he headed? What was he heading? He was heading an organization, a paramilitary organization, just like the B in Cameroon. So the stage was already set for what is happening in Sudan, just like what French Cameroon is staring down at. Because they have practiced to oppress Ambazonia, they've practiced to spill our blood, they've practiced to burn our villages, they've practiced to rape our women, they've practiced to commit all kinds of horrendous acts against Ambazonia. And all of that experience, all of that history is now staring down the face of French Cameroon, and they don't have a way to defuse that bomb. So make no mistake, they cannot delegitimize us, because they in no way, shape, or form can castrate us from the international rulings, from the UN resolutions, from the president that enshrine us of our right to sovereignty. Thank you.
If I understand you very well, in summary, you're saying that Cameroon does not have any legal standing or moral authority to delegitimize our movement, especially in the international community, in spite of every effort they are making. And this is something that I'd like you to react to. Some of the efforts that they have been able to put in place is to infiltrate our camps, and then with their own boys, like the Atanga Nji boys, like Ngala Gerald, who happens to be a billionaire with wealth that is questionable in Douala, killing his own people. You now have CPDM loyalists owning their own armed groups now, and we are having reports. And we believe that the United States Embassy, particularly in Yaoundé, has the resources to also investigate that how Cameroon is directly and indirectly patronizing armed groups to create or to cause mayhem against the people of Southern Cameroon. I want to find out, you occupy an important role, please. Before I come back to SOS Zama, you occupy an important role in government. Are you in any way planning to compile some of this and forward these people, their names, to the U.S. Embassy in Yaoundé? First of all, that gives Ngala Gerald, when he wants to come and have fun in Maryland, and he is killing people, committing terrorist attack against his own people. Do you plan to write, first of all, to the U.S. Embassy in Yaoundé, to write to the State Department, and to include some names like Ngala Gerald, which I'm not sure if it was in your ICC report? I'm talking to you. By
the way, Ngala's name is on the ICC report. He is one of those listed in there. But I have to tell you something about U.S. federal law. U.S. federal law gives the right of anybody who has had their relative, their father, their mother, their relatives, their property attacked in a foreign country. U.S. federal law gives that person the right to bring suit in federal court against that individual. So if Ngala Gerald has been traveling to the United States and flaunting some of that ill-gotten wealth, and we are aware of specific incidents that we can tie him to, where he has fostered the killing, the maiming, the destruction of property of Ambazonians, we can file a suit against Ngala Gerald in federal court in the United States, and when he steps his foot on U.S. soil, he will be arrested. So make no mistake about that. That is the jurisdiction of U.S. federal court to be able to do that. And United States resources are going to be brought to bear to do that investigation of parties that have been harmed in Ambazonia by the efforts of Ngala Gerald, and I can guarantee you that he will be arrested when he steps foot on U.S. soil. So, Paddy, I'm going to talk to you behind the scene for you to point me to some of these examples, and let's work on them. The other thing you have to realize is that this guy, Cho Ayaba, who was arrested in Norway, and I don't know what his status is behind bars, he was committing all of these atrocities and bragging about them until the Norwegian authorities got notice of that. And what did they do? They arrested him because he's linked to all of these atrocities through videos he made, through audios, through the killings he did, especially in my own area, in Mogamo, where he killed, he maimed, and through the guy called Big Number, he did all types of mayhem. You remember the Guzang massacre, where ADF forces shot 2 people in the market square, including the front brother. Yes, right there. So I'm going to talk to you behind the scene and get that information on Ngala, and we will be able to, through the U.S.
Yeah, it's very important that we take this intentionally. We are compiling the reports, and we have people on the ground. In fact, Ngala Gerald vigilante, he owns a vigilante. That's a known fact. Like I'm saying, it's not just an innuendo, because I believe that the United States Embassy and their intelligence on the ground have resources enough to confirm this. Because Ngala Gerald, on February 11, when the ADF took responsibility for the IED that killed people in his own village, Ngala Gerald vigilante took responsibility. What is he doing with vigilante and armed men? But I'm coming to you now, Commission Sec, Zama. When you look at the legalities involved in all of this, how do you think, or how do you think we're conducting ourselves in our effort to defend our homeland to defend our women from this carnage. The war is automatically complex, very complex, because you have people like Ngala Gerald that are manipulating boys in their own villages and giving them arms. They have to explain to us where they are getting those arms. You have Ngala Gerald patronizing Fulani or Hausa or Mbororos, and even paying some from Nigeria into Ambazonia to fight their own people. We have seen how they have tried to instrumentalize the Mbororo Ngana cause against the Ambazonian people just to weaken our force. Cameroon is always trying to hit the heads of people. How does it help you in advising some of these Ambazonian state army how they can compact themselves, how they can fish out these people? How should we generally compact ourselves in our effort to fight this war, unfortunate war that Cameroon has declared against us?
Yeah, just to reiterate something that Barrister Gana said, Ngala Gerald is an individual that can be arrested anywhere among the countries of the world. There's something they call universal jurisdiction, where he could be picked up by any country and prosecuted based on human rights violations in Cameroon or in Ambazonia. With that said, it's not a new thing that the government that's fighting a war of independence is always looking for other groups to break up the enemy. We could see that in South Africa, where the ANC was fighting the war with the South African government. Obutulezi was brought in. The Inkatha was fighting against the ANC. You could see it in the British, the British against the Irish of IRA. All these things, it always exists in wars of independence, where the aggrieved country looks for other proxy fighters to fight for them. It happens everywhere in any war. We do see that. But the impunity with which it happens in Ambazonia, we have to hold the elites in our own area, because they are the ones who are advocating for all this. They are the ones who advocate for forward bases for La Republique to put bases in their villages, not knowing fully well that these people they are dogs of war. They are going to go rape. They're going to go maim. They're going to do atrocious things in the community. We are doing the best we can do to stop all this. We recently, as of yesterday, this afternoon, there was an attack in Biya that they killed quite a few soldiers, and that's what we are talking about. We have to go at the offense. We have to fish these people. They are hiding in their camps right now because they don't know what to do. We have to go into their camps and take them out as much as we can. And as I said, our soldiers will never be more powerful than the community in which they are. The citizens of that community are the best soldiers that the ASA can work with. And with those people in our community, they can give intelligence, they can support the troops, they can be eyewitnesses for crimes that are being committed. So we have a triumvirate of issues that we can really benefit from our citizens fighting this war along with us. That's why our ASA have always been tutored. They've always been informed. We've given them pamphlets with the Geneva Conventions on Engagement of War. So they know exactly what they must do or cannot do. So they have that information. Are we saying that all of them will abide by it? Sometimes passions may push some of them to act out of order. Yes, it does happen. But that is not the norm. But for La Republique and all the proxies that are in there, I can tell you one thing. I have a friend who is from the north, who's from somewhere in La Republique. He calls me and he tells me, "Oh, do you know that the guys in my village are all building all-story buildings?" And he was wondering. He visited his village from the U.S. and he said he was astonished and he was poking around. And he said all those houses were built by soldiers who are in the northern or southern zones in Ambazonia. And they said, oh, they are so happy if you leave from this area that, you've not built your house, you've not built your story building, then you are useless. So they have these gangs, and they said the chief of their gang is based in Awing. They go through Matazem, they go to Bamenda, they go. So they map during the day, they map out where they're gonna go rob people in the night and kill them. So these groups are all sometimes disgruntled soldiers who are abandoning, who are not being paid on time. Cameroon is facing a lot of financial trouble. They are not paying their payment. They are not making their payments on time. So these people go out and extort people. We cannot really, we just want to make our people understand when they say an amber boy or an unarmed person, they should be able to verify and validate who is an amber boy and an ASA, rather than just putting out blanket statement and on an unidentified person. Of course, these guys are all robbers. They are not going to come with the uniform of Cameroon government. So we have a problem with Mimi Mefo putting out claims on validated claims, on investigated claims that our people, ASA, are doing atrocities. So we are fighting all these wars, yes, but we have militias and militias and militias from the different elites in the community of Paul Biya's elite, Atanga Nji's elite, groups. All these guys have their own militia that are fighting to keep the chaos going because the money is sweet. A lot of money is being poured into Ambazonia to fight this war, and they cannot do it without those soldiers.
Now, talking about Mimi Mefo and For Hansen, these are two individuals I know personally, and they know me. I feel really disappointed in both of them. I feel outrightly disappointed. Mimi Mefo got her facing in the Cameroons when it comes to journalism only when the struggle started in 2016. And because of her audacity in actually reporting what was happening on the ground, she became famous. Her fame rose so fast and was admired by freedom-seeking people of the Southern Cameroons. Through that, she got asylum abroad, got an international job. But unfortunately, when she started her relationship with a CPDM loyalist in London, because her current husband is a CPDM loyalist, and that's why I'm very concerned. I'm just praying that none of our uncles will fall in love with anyone who has any attachment with Cameroon, because women, please, every woman listening to me, forgive me. Forgive me. Mimi Mefo would have been an anchor on this platform, if not of the husband who is a CPDM loyalist. Everybody knows the husband in London. This guy was a CPDM loyalist, and Mimi Mefo started and now got married and has just taken a U-turn. So she is not interested in fair reporting. I'll give example. If Mimi Mefo was interested in reporting the facts on the ground, she would have been able to report what happened during 1st October, the way it happened. She would have been able to report to the people how the Cameroon military is being killed regularly. But she ignored with a spine, and she had an agenda based on the guilt she wanted to portray Tchiroma that has lost the election. This leads me to how Cameroon infiltrates and how Cameroon and how Biya is trying to grip power. As I speak to you right now, if you look at, nobody in Cameroon is safe right now. We're receiving intelligent report that is clear to us that as we speak right now, just last night, the Biya government arrested over 150 soldiers across the national territory. Arrested them last night across several military bases in the Grand North, because they are alleging that they are communicating with Cameroon's president-elect, that's Tchiroma. So you see, Cameroon is not only hastily reshuffling the government as we speak, they are arresting soldiers, intimidating some, reappointing some like Onye reported, and it is getting serious there. The agitation of that government is really appalling right now. And this is why I'm bringing you again, Barrister Gana, because this is something that is so critical, which I believe we have to talk about. So Cameroon, I don't know if it is fear mode or whatever, but they are now, they are not sure of who is in power. I think your procrastinations, this evidence that something is happening, and Biya is trying to play a fast one. Do you think they'll succeed in this?
Well, the first thing is that it's not Biya who is trying to play a fast one, because Biya doesn't know if he's touching his right hand or his left hand. He doesn't know if he's going or coming. Biya is suffering from dementia, as we've seen. He's suffering from dementia. Yeah, he's suffering from prostate cancer as well. Biya is decomposing from the inside. So Biya is not even aware, except to pump him some drugs, do some medical procedures that he could be alert for a few minutes, and then he goes back into remission. So Biya is not aware. So it's not Biya that is doing anything. From what we learn in Cameroon is people like Ngo, Chantal Biya, and Ayolo Mvodo, who are trying to usurp Biya's authority to rule Cameroon. So from that angle, Cameroon is decomposing because we don't even know who is at the top. And when you look at these incidents, such as soldiers being arrested, there is suspicion everywhere. Nobody is trusting anyone. Those are just hoofbeats to what is coming. This thing is going to be organic because the South know that they do not deserve that power. Ngongo, Chantal Biya, Ayolo, Vondo, all of them know that they have not won any election and they do not deserve that power. They are using this electronic pen to sign Biya's signature. It is not going to work. The same thing, I gave the example of what happened in northern Sudan there, where after the South was let go, after the South got its independence, it disintegrated. And to this day, Khartoum is being destroyed. The whole of northern Sudan there is being destroyed. And what is facing La Republique is something that is unavoidable. To the extent that soldiers, these are people who've sacrificed their lives fighting Boko Haram. They've rotated them in and out of fighting our fighters in Ambazonia, to rotating them to fighting Boko Haram. Now, their own soldiers are being victimized by the same government. They say what God has ordained, nobody can block, nobody can hinder. For the past 8 years, we've watched French Cameroon spill blood in Ambazonia. We've watched all of the atrocities, again, that are documented in that suit we filed with the ICC, which the ICC has opened an investigation on. If you read that, if you go to the Ambazonian Genocide Library, www.Ambazonian Genocide Library, you will see the volumes of atrocities that were committed against Ambazonia. I knew, we knew, any reasonable person observing knew that all of the blood of the innocent that is spilled in Ambazonia was not going to go for nothing. And now it is staring at visiting them in French Cameroon. So yes, all of these suspicions, all of these arrests is because, I would like to refer to a quote which an elder aunt of mine used to say about 40 years ago. She used to say, stolen goods are always crying to go back to their owners. Stolen goods are always crying to go back to their owners. Ambazonia is crying to go back to its rightful owners. And when you see all of these complexes that are happening in French Cameroon, that is a manifestation that Ambazonia is crying to go back to its owners, and the sovereignty of Ambazonia is going to be restored. If it means it's going to be restored through the blood of tyrants in French Cameroon, everything is pointing to the fact that that is what is going to happen. So,
wonderful.
Thank you.
SOS Zama, this is something that I think you're more interested in commenting on this issue, where panic, I don't know if it is panic driven. We know that Biya is vegetables already. We know that he's an institution. So the name Biya is just a logo that's being used by Chantal Biya and her alleged boyfriend. Some are saying is a cousin. There are others saying that it's Chantal Biya's boyfriend. But we know all of that the country, the two Cameroons, particularly French Cameroon, because we have liberated ourselves. And we are trying to actualize the restored independence. We are very much aware that Biya is not ruling the country, but it is the wrestle within and the fact that military people are being doubted, being arrested day and night. That is our interest here. That is an example. That's just what happened last night. Over 150 military men were harassed and arrested, and they're under interrogation. Should I call it interrogation or an intimidation by the Biya government? That aside, there is still tension in certain parts of that country. Please talk to us.
I can say for certain that no matter how high the walls of Etudi is, that wall will come down. It doesn't need bullets for that wall to come down. Ayolo, Ngongo, and Mutaze are vying for who to control the palace. It's an infight that has to be settled before they go even after Mr. Tchiroma. We have seen this before. They will intimidate some people, they will gather some people, they will kill some people to set a lesson. But I think the anger is pent up. For 60 years, nothing has been done in Cameroon as a country. Nothing has been done. Because if you look at countries that were at the same level with Cameroon or below the level of Cameroon, they've blown past us. They've blown past the developments in Yaoundé. Yaoundé looks like you can see mountains of trash from space, and it's shameful. It's shameful. It doesn't matter how many people he arrests. It doesn't matter how many people he kills. The population is angered enough at this point. And I'm just saying that the Francophone boys and girls should have put all their men pants and go out and send this guy home. We understand in the animal kingdom that an old lion does not succeed an old lion. And a young lion succeeds an old lion to dominate the pride. So we cannot be dealing with two old people. Tchiroma is not in the prime of his life. He's old in the scheme of things. But they should take their own destiny in their own hands. The African people, especially in the Francophone countries, have been so anesthetized that they get up in the morning, they eat misery for lunch, they eat misery for dinner, and it's okay. We don't know what is really gonna make them to pull that trigger, because it's reached the worst point that in any community in Bangladesh, it just took a couple of days for them to overthrow their prime minister. In Mauritania, it was the same thing. So what has happened? Do we have spineless men in La République? I think so. But the masses have more power. Paul Biya cannot stop that. When the anger of the people is like a tsunami, no amount of building or barriers was going to stop it. They'll bulldoze through that. And I said, the palace of Etudi is not up to 25 meters high. People can scale that and go into Etudi and pull this old man out with all his thugs. We are doing our best in Ambazonia. We are doing our best to limit his troops coming back. We are killing as many as they can come up, and we are not going to sit and wait for them. And like I said earlier, all Ambazonian, you are abroad or you are back home, a $500 franc donation a month is not going to kill you. A $25 donation a month is not going to kill you when you're abroad. Let's do this. Let's do it. Put it as a commitment. Because a lot of people think that this war is just being fought. Oh, when I take money, chop them. When I take money. Where do you think that what's happening with all these soldiers for 8 years? We've been doing something right. At least we need some support from the public. We need some support from our communities.
And we do not just need support. We need some credit. We need some credit.
Of course, we need some credit. Some people tell me, "Oh, Mr. Zama, what have you guys earned?" Before these guys used to just roam into Ambazonia with their trucks and go kill people and go back home and go eat dinner with their families, but they are no longer doing that. They come in and they go back in boxes. Some of them stay in the bushes because they've been so shattered, nobody can find them. We will continue doing that. If you come to kill us, we will make sure we kill you before you kill any of our people. Those days that they used to just come in and go kill and rape people are gone. They are hiding in their barracks now. Each time they come out, we knock them out. That's how we're gonna do it. And I want that rate to increase. I want the kill rate to increase for Cameroon soldiers. And we cannot do that without the support of our people. We need consistent support. We need the soldiers. To buy a bullet is not cheap. To get a gun is not cheap. I would prefer for a soldier to be shot with his gun in his hand than to be shot without a gun. And that's what we're getting with some of our young people. They cannot run to the bush to hide because they don't have no guns. They cannot go to the enemy. And they tend to go sit in Yaoundé and Douala and they get killed there. So let's give our people some dignity. Let's give them the weapons and the sticks and the support that they need. And I'm not asking for your money. I have enough of mine to share with those that I can share. But I have to support this war. The day I saw this kid being tossed in boiling oil, that's the day I was teaching a class and all the nurses were like, I was crying. I literally was crying and I could not hold myself. That's the day I said, okay, this is it. I'm in. And yeah. I think those moments have struck every one of us. Some of us have been shocked to a point that we've been shocked to ignition. We don't want to act. No, those things we can pretend that we don't see. It happens and it will continue happening until we stop it. You know, I can just read, if I can read this, This is a quote by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a Lutheran pastor during the 30s when Hitler was killing people. He was picking up. He started with the Invalids, then to the Romas, then to the Jews, then to Catholics. But at that point, there were no people to fight, to talk about it. But this is what he wrote. I'll quote from that. He said, "We are not to simply bandage the wounds of victims beneath the wheels of injustice. We are to drive a spoke into the wheel itself. We have to terminate that system. We have to exterminate it. We have to kill it. And we are doing our best in Ambazonia. And we want everybody to take part in that victory. We want you to be a participant. We want you to claim that victory with us in this government. So we don't want you to come back and say, oh, nobody asked. I am asking from you. I'm asking from you to contribute towards this fight. Look at where you can fight, you can contribute. We need your ideas, we need your know-how, we need your money, and we need your contribution. Participation is all it takes. Do the best you can do. If you want to contribute, there are channels everywhere on the internet for you to contribute to this fight. This is the moment. This is the moment that the enemy is really asphyxiated. We just need to finish him off. We just need to finish him up and throw him down the well. Ambazonia is up. We are doing everything. We are making kills every day. We're killing La Republic soldiers on a daily basis. Yes, some of you will say, oh, they are killing people. Well, you don't expect Ambazonian soldiers to go kiss people who have raped their mothers, people who burned down their houses. I don't think you expect anything worse than that. We will do what we must do. We will fight the enemy. We'll fight the enemy till we get independence. As Wiba said, keep holding us down, you will have to stay down with us. And that is what Barrister is saying. And that has been foretold years ago. They want to stay in Ambazonia, we will all stay down. And we will rise up. And we are rising up. And I want everybody to understand that at this point in time, we've met past more than half the years of many countries that have gone through wars of independence. I said it's 13-year average. We are 4 years into it. I hope we could end it today. And with the struggle that's going on in East Cameroon, that fight could come quickly if everybody contribute and we make one big move. I hear they say when they are pushing cars in Bangem, they say, Kruje, hey, and everybody pushes. If they say Kruje and one person pushes, that vehicle doesn't shake. So we have to muster all our energy, all our finances to get this thing going and liberate Ambazonia. There are lots of our people who are dying and they are being buried abroad, not because they wanted to, but because they can't go to a hostile or an imprisoned Ambazonia. We are all getting older. We want to go back home. And I think this is the right time for us to do what we must do.
That's amazing. We've had an interesting evening. And in your concluding statement, Barrister Gana, I want you to scope through these infiltrators, these armed dealers from Cameroon government, the CPDM loyalists, and how Cameroon directly and indirectly is committing genocide, the ethnic cleansing. How should Ambazonia position themselves, both at home and abroad, as the situation east of the Mongo is very uncertain? I wanted to talk, how should we get ready to make sure that these killers of our people, like Ngala Gerald, I want to emphasize on this, Atanga Nji, when they travel abroad, they should really face the law. All of these put together, this is a critical and a crucial time for the nation of Ambazonia. Talk to the people of Ambazonia in conclusion. What must be done and be done right now to make sure that we can quicken our way to Biya?
Yes, Comrade Paddy, it's really been an informative and uplifting evening. And thanks to all of our leaders who've been listening. Thanks to the SAA, with the leadership of Comrade Zama, SOS Zama, who is doing a fabulous job. One thing that we have to remember, one thing that our people have to remember, one thing that even the traitors who are betraying Ambazonia have to remember is that when you betray your own people, you never succeed. Case in point, when Blaise Compaoré betrayed Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso, Blaise Compaoré ended up as a chicken, because eventually the people of Burkina Faso rose to overthrow Blaise, and Blaise lived a life of misery. When Mandela and the ANC were fighting to liberate South Africa, you had people like Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi of the Inkatha Freedom Party, who were colluding with the apartheid regime to try to weaken the struggle for Black emancipation in South Africa. Buthelezi did not succeed. Even in the United States, when the United States was fighting its war of independence against Great Britain, against England, you hear people talk about Benedict Arnold, who was a traitor within the Continental Army. He didn't end well. So when you are a traitor against your own people, when you are a Judas, you're not going to have a good ending. I want to come back to my own local constituency of Mogamo. There was a politician that was highly respected. He was a politician within the SDF. His name was Honorable Mbandam. And he got attracted, he got seduced by the allure of power, to an extent that he was being escorted to Mogamo to organize votes, to amalgamate fraud in favor of the CPDM. How did Mbandam end? A person I used to respect, and then I lost all respect until he fell from grace and fell into his own grave. Ambazonians, this is the time to ban forces, to ban resources, to contribute whatever you can. If you cannot contribute to the ASA, contribute to diplomacy. As SOS Zama said, bring your ideas so that we can push this struggle towards the absolute and total liberation of Ambazonia. Independence is ours. Our sovereignty that was stolen in 1961 was ours. It didn't just take 1 year. It didn't just take one incident. Britain and France connived in the decolonization committee to scheme the stealing of Ambazonia's independence. As a law student, I took as my thesis to read and understand the transcripts of what happened in those decolonization committees that resulted in Ambazonia not having its independence, but something being crafted under a UN Resolution 1608 that talked about independence by joining. And independence by joining that never happened. So if you look at all of the international laws, look at all of the international resolutions, if you look at the African Constitutive Act 4B, if you look at everything that governs the legitimacy of Ambazonia and that of French Cameroon, you realize that we have never been one and we will never be one. Not even this federal government of Ambazonia has the right or the ability to deal away Ambazonia's sovereignty. Not even this generation of our people has the right to deal away Ambazonia's sovereignty. Ambazonia's sovereignty belongs to the people of Ambazonia because it is enshrined in international law. That is why you have to be on the winning side. That is why you have to be on the side of Ambazonia. But I know humanity enough. And I know that there are some people who were born to be traitors. Judas was destined to be a traitor. And there are some of you Judases out there who think you're winning by betraying Ambazonia. But I just want to inform you that just like other traitors, the day of reckoning will come when you will have to answer to your people about what you did to keep your people enslaved, to keep your people enshrined in bondage. But the sun is in the horizon. What is happening in French Cameroon is lighting the horizon of Ambazonia. Even French Cameroonians are beginning to applaud what the Ambazonians have done over the past 8 years because they are beginning to experience the injustice that result when you have a regime like the regime in Etudi that cares for nobody else but themselves. So the time has come. You will be surprised by how fast and how soon it happens. Just like a baby. For 9 months, that baby creeps. And the parents keep watching that kid. And they don't know if that baby is going to be able to walk. But surprisingly, one day, that baby gets up, takes a few steps, falls, but eventually musters the courage to continue to walk. Ambazonia is right at that stage now, where it's taking those few steps. The international community is recognizing the sovereignty of Ambazonia. You can read edicts from the European Union. You can read the stance of the United States government in the UN General Assembly when they held the Arias Forum, where there was a vote to 11-4, inclining towards the independence of Ambazonia. The day of reckoning is ahead for those who wish to hold us down. But the day when the sunrise becomes in full view is closer than we think. So if you can muster the resources, if you can muster the support, the time is now. It is not later. And the government of Dr. Sako is going to be putting steps out there. It's going to be articulating steps that we have to participate in towards ushering the birth of a new nation, where the sovereignty of Ambazonia is going to be restored. So it's a privilege every time we come to educate our people, to sensitize our people, to urge them, to nudge them that hold your faith, have confidence, for the day when we regain our sovereignty is closer than you think. Thank you very much, and it's an honor to be on this call.
SOS, Zama, please.
Yeah, I think if I could add one thing, I'm calling again on the masses, because we are quick to blame Dr. Foncha, Muna, and all that. I want to make people to understand that in 1961, there were barely 5 people in southern Cameroon that was educated. 3 of them had MDs from Nigeria, and the rest were diplomas, education diplomas to teach as teachers, which Muna and Dr. Foncha had at that time. We have blamed these people. Some people will say all kind of stuff. These people were cowards. But I want to tell you that in 1961, it took 2.5 days to leave from Chico to New York. And they made 4 trips to the UN while they were fighting to have an independent state. They were fighting to have a standalone point of independence, not independence by joining Nigeria or Cameroon. So this is the time, this is the crucial moment where you want to correct those mistakes that you perceive them to have made. This is the time, this is the moment to rise up. Because now we have a lot of PhDs, a lot of master's degrees. We had 4 or 5 young people who were dealing with seasoned politicians in Europe, all over the world, and they were all by themselves. What excuse do we have today if we still fall victim for the same things? With all the education we have, with all the privilege, I can call it privilege, that we've had, to be able to be educated in the West, to be able to have enough money. Most of us are making more than these guys made their whole life as politicians in that country. So we have to do the minimum we can is to contribute to this fight. The minimum we can is to look at your child in the house and say, okay, I have a kid who is contributing to this fight, because I made them to understand. They look at these things and they see all these videos coming in, and it really made them sick. They contribute. So let's get, even our kids, we have communities here. You don't have to be an Ambazonian to contribute to this fight. You can tell the story, be an ambassador to this, Ambazonian ambassador to the society where you are. And at least that will help us. The more people know about our stories, the more people can help us. We cannot get help by staying mute. They say in America, doesn't get fed. And I hope that will help us if we open our mouth and just say to other people, we are hurting and we need help. And I think that would do it for me. Thank you.
I'm sorry for that technical hinge there. In fact, I want to cue into the conclusion of what you said. The least you should do is to help in the internationalization of the liberation movement. Be an ambassador, a free will ambassador in your community, in whatever country you find yourself. What are you saying? Are you demarketing the movement? Are you sabotaging it because of the guilt? Because what I've realized from some who are feeling guilty that they have not sufficiently been involved in doing the right thing to free their people, they want to sabotage it. They have excuses. I can tell you, they are giving excuses to everybody. If you ask them, why are you not involved? They'll tell you, oh, President Sako did this. Oh, Comrade Paddy, this person did this. Even Chris Anu. They want to criticize everybody. And the one question I ask any one of them, and that they cannot respond to, is, okay, Cho Ayaba has done his own mistake. Chris Anu has done his own mistake. Maybe I'm doing my own mistake. Maybe President Sako is making his own mistake. Maybe every other person, Nesno Chiba, Kemi Ashu, every other person is not doing it right, which means that for you to identify the wrong, meaning that you know the right, the question I'm asking myself, that a lot of them will never even give an answer, is that what have you done? Are you aware that you're at a critical time of war? You should not just be asking what others have done or what others cannot do or what they are doing wrong, but you should be challenging yourself by asking yourself a very tough question. What have I done to free my people? It's a critical question, and I hope and wish they start asking this question to themselves before they go to bed at night. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. I hope to have you again. It has been an enriching conversation, and I believe we have not only helped to sensitize, educate our people, we have literally spoken to the international community our stance at this critical time. Thank you very much. We're going to be having you sometime again next week. Hopefully you will have the time to join the newsroom as we continue to look into the stories that are happening on the ground. I know all of you watching us right now probably have been enjoying this program. You want us to stay on air? Become a part of this great work. We're fighting the media war. This is the only platform, I say it all the time, this is the only platform that is fully representing the wishes of the people of Ambazonia. This is the only platform that will give you the undiluted news of what is happening in Ambazonia. Many have come and gone, and we are still here. Like when they talk, when I heard that and talk, say, we be water, we be stone, where water don't go past leave them. Stone where water leave them, it's going nowhere. So we are asking you for club members, patrons, and stakeholders of government, ask yourself, when was the last time you donated to ABC? It takes liquid for ABC to be on air. It takes liquid for ABC to stream in sub-Saharan Africa and continuously maintain the staffing that you're seeing to give you enriching programming like we've done. It takes liquid, and we are calling on you to donate, and to donate now, not tomorrow. If you have not given, we're planning to scale our production in a very tremendous way as the year is coming to an end. We're going to be covering every news on the ground and analyzing it with great panelists like you're saying. We want you to make the effort the best way possible and to make sure that you are a part of this financially. Thank you. Until next time, it's been Tarh King. I'm going to leave you with some ABC images. For those who are watching us at home front, we'll have this program. We'll rebroadcast this program again at midnight Ambazonian time. In the morning, before we stream some services, we're going to rebroadcast it. All of tomorrow, Sunday, you're going to have it come up at least twice. And we have some other very interesting things that will be for you. We will do a reprogramming of our shows come December. There are lots of programs, Christmas carols, and things that you need to just see, especially those at the home front. We want to keep you at these dangerous or difficult times of our nation. We just do not only want to keep you informed, we want to make sure that you have a lot you're enjoying. We'll bring some Nigerian movies for you to watch, some African and Ambazonian music, and some documentaries that will educate you, not just of Ambazonian history, but a lot of things that are happening in the world that you need to know, things that Cameroon will not want you to know. Until next time, bye-bye. My name is Tarh King.